This show is a production of the Best in Tabletop Network. Be your best in every aspect of your game. Find us wherever you find your podcasts, or check us out on YouTube for more Bat Reps podcasts and shows. If you like what we're doing, you can join our Discord through the Best in Tabletop Patreon group or our YouTube members only area, where you'll get access to our entire library of content. Thank you for listening.
Welcome to 40K Frontiers, a podcast exploring the far corners of the 40K world, showing light to places that you might not have even heard of, let alone knew that people played 40K there. I'm one of your hosts, Ben. I've got Tausi to my right-hand side, if you're viewing us on YouTube.
Hey.
I've also got Alex down in the bottom right-hand corner.
Coming to you live from my actual house this time, which is much better.
Not some random hotel in Alabama.
Yeah, we've moved past that, which is nice.
And we've got Big Sam as well, finally there in the bottom. How are you today, Sam?
Yeah, doing pretty swell. Can't complain. Pretty nice day here in Canberra, in Australia. And literally tomorrow is the first of many public holidays, so yeehaw, 4-day weekend, here we go. So yeah, it's good.
And don't forget, we need to give a shout out to our network, so Best in Tabletop Network. If you want to like and subscribe on YouTube, there is also a access members only part of YouTube, which is really worth it, and great content there from plenty of shows and more on the horizon as always. And we also have, if you want to be part of a fantastic Discord, which we're all part of, and fantastic high level players and just a great bunch of lads in the community, you can go to patreon.com /best in tabletop. I think it's $10 US a month, and you can be part of a fantastic community. Yeah, what can I say? It's amazing. We love it on there.
No, so, it is really good, and yeah, it's $10 US a month for both the membership on YouTube and the Patreon. The money goes into improving the service. I will give a special shout out to the YouTube channel for the bit reps, the 45-minute condensed battle reports they have, especially if you are limited on time. They're really good because you basically get the whole game in 45 minutes, but you get to watch 3 hours of gameplay. It's just sped up. So it's good service.
I had a cold last week and I watched literally every single one in one day, and it was fantastic. The commentary is amazing on it. And kind of, those boring bits when they're kind of just moving stuff around, and because they're using their cursors, when now the cursor is really visible on it, you can see exactly what's going on there, and they tell you on what they're thinking and stuff like that. It's a real good insight, especially like Alex said, if you don't have too much time, because those 3-hour games, they can get quite, they take quite a large chunk off your day. So.
And then if you join the Discord, you get really interesting insights, like Colin telling you how it was surprisingly difficult to get a really big cursor to appear on the screen so people can see.
You get the adventures of a lot of people trying to get projects for this, for the network to start up, where it's like, I've run into this issue and I've never had this problem before, but it's here now and we get to figure it out.
Yeah.
Right, so if we want to roll in, I think, I know in my case, I haven't talked to you guys in about a month. So I'll cover first what I've been up to. It's a little longer. So as you can tell from my background, and my lighting's different and I have a new mic, I am now home. I got back a couple weeks ago and straight into the frying pan. It's been very busy where I'm at right now. So haven't had a ton of time for 40K. I got to play one game against another Best in Tabletop host, Tyler Bortel. I helped him test out his Tau list that he took to a GT with my custodes. That was a lot of fun. Learned that a storm surge that turns off your invols that's scary. You don't want to see that. Turns out when your whole defense is I have a 4-up invul, he can just go, no, you really don't. Unfortunately, I mentioned last time I'd be going to an RTT. Unfortunately, that has been canceled due to some scheduling issues. So the next event I will be going to is the Dallas Open in Dallas, Texas. If you see me, please come and say hi. I will nervously laugh and thank you for listening to the show, as I will be recognized from the internet, which is always a good feeling. I also have been desperately painting up more custodes hold that up, in anticipation of a balanced data slate that as of time of recording has not been released. GW, please release the Balance Dataslate. We beg you.
How you doing, Sam? How's
Sam's going to
ADC
lose
list
his
going?
mind if it doesn't get released in the next 24 hours, I swear.
Yeah, that meme of the monkey balance data slate where, like, that is just me every single
Where's
Monday, every
data
single day.
slate?
Yeah. So, but
All
hopefully,
three of those monkeys are Sam, basically.
Sam and all his different lists he's considering taking to. Is it ATC? That's the tournament, right?
bingo, yeah.
The rep ACT at ATC. Yeah.
I love, by the way, that we've immediately dated the podcast by complaining about a data slate not being out. For context, this is being recorded on April 13th, which is a Wednesday. In theory, it comes out tomorrow. So this is
No, it's
very
April
relevant
14th.
for like 4 people.
It's April 14th, Alex. It's a Thursday.
Okay, so my day and the day around the rest of the world is the 13th.
Oh, what a start.
Yeah, at least we've got a little teaser of, like, obviously that we basically the Elder FAQ came out last night for us, so that was a nice teaser. And we were just waiting, we're like, oh, here it comes, and then we saw the Twitter post of the Balance Data Slate isn't coming out later this week, and it's sad. It's okay. Look, positive vibes only. Like, it's coming. It is coming. It's just frustrating because you just look, we know this Balanced Data Slate is coming, and look, I'm playing at Elder Harlequins, and like I'm trying to test and trying to get ready for events, but who knows what's going to happen? Like, how Custo is going to change, how Tower going to change. Is there going to be any broader game changes? Like, we're just waiting. But anyways, it is what it is. Moving on and upwards. I guess for myself, so recently finished last episode. I talked about AUS Masters and I attended that. So thanks, obviously, Benny Way. So he hosted the event and it was a really good event. We'll talk about it a bit later in more detail. But finished that. I recently started playing in a TTS tournament, actually, funnily enough. So it's called the New Sphere Knockdown TTS tournament. It's a teams event. So myself, Denise, he's part of the Normal Blokes podcast in Queensland. Simon Gojkovic, he's a Team Australia member, long-time WC ETC player. He's also part of Teams Queensland. And then David Gaylard, so who is part of England, who's I guess a Kiwi. So us four are part of the hashtag Nerf Australia TTS team, which is pretty good. So we've had our first round against Team Belgium 2, and we lost the round. Oh, we didn't lose the round. We drew the round by a single point in teams. So we needed Denise the last game to score more than 2, and he's scored 1. So it's like, well, it's been good. So with this week, as we're recording, we're versing I think a German team. So for the 40k trolls, as they're known. So a bunch of German WTC players, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, that's been fantastic. Versus TTS League tournament. So it's good. Like, obviously, we played a bunch of TTS practice games, but playing in the league is a bit different. And it's funny, obviously, in this show, we have to set up time zones a little bit with Alex being in the US, but setting up all the European time zones and figuring things out, that's a whole nother mystery for sure. And then, yeah, I guess on top of that, preparing for ATC and waiting this impending balanced data slate. That's what's happening for me. So, Kelsey, what's happening with you?
So I'm still in a tournament drought. We've got things coming up pretty soon. So between now and the next time we record, I think we should hopefully have the meme local tournament of 66-minute rounds of 666 points called Hell Games. I've worked out a trade deal to yoink some of my buddy's tower to just do shenanigans. Not complete shenanigans because there's one detachment. So he's recently got a Storm Surge, but we're not going to be able to run that. So that's coming up. Otherwise, I've been assembling Custody stuff. Most recently, I've been jealous of your TTS team, apparently, Sam. That sounds like real cool.
Yeah, it's super fun. Like, oh, look, obviously, I've listened to the Normal Works before, and I played against Simon before, and like Denise and Simon are super cool. And obviously, I've heard about David Gaylord obviously playing a TTS, and he was in the Las Vegas Open. He made the top 8 and lost to Alex McDougall. So It's good. He's really been super good to like learn from someone who's had so much a fair bit of experience, and like he was in a game and just being able to like break things down so well is amazing. And we have a pretty good team. So myself, I'm playing Harlequins. Simon's running GSC, just doing some further testing. Denise running Tau, and then David's running New Nids. So it's pretty spicy, to say the least.
Awesome. So, I actually went to my first GT I played my first game of 40k for 8 weeks, about 6 to 8 weeks on the weekend. I was going to practice for the GT, but I got a bit of a bad cold midweek, so I couldn't end up doing it. So I went into the GT with no practice. And my first time running the Gene Stealer Cult book mono. I've been using it in Forces since it came out, but that was really fun. It was just nice to get away for the weekend and play some 40k at an event that I'd never even been to before, so that was nice. As an old standing one in Sydney that had been, obviously with COVID, hasn't been on for a couple of years, and I don't think it was on the year before COVID hit, 2019. So yeah, it was really good. I do have hopefully the new Nids book arriving in my hand today. I found a little cheeky loophole through ordering it through a different site, so I'm hoping to get that in my hands today and hopefully practice it a little bit over the weekend. I'm very excited about that. Not sure exactly what builds I'm going to try, but I feel like the book's deep enough for me to try heaps of different stuff in it, so I'm looking forward to that. Do have a little bit of hobby to do. I have assembled my Death Leaper, ready for some painting. Yeah, so it's the only Tyranid model that Australian GW has in stock basically is the Death Leaper. So I was like, I better get myself one of those. And it's just a cool model. I can't believe it's Finecast. Like I can't believe we're still here. That was really like a bittersweet moment getting it and then having to assemble it in Finecast. But here we are. But yeah, that's basically me. I haven't been doing too much else apart from that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to. I mean, I'll touch upon my run at Clash of the Titans. It was called, so I can touch on that in a bit or now if we like. We can scroll right through.
Just quickly, Ben, did you
Sure.
get the model knowing it was Finecast, or did you like?
Yeah, I
What did
did.
you-
But when you order it and you just think, oh yeah, look, it's Finecast, I'll just deal with it, right? Because it's been so long since I made a Finecast model, and then you get it together and you're like, oh,
I know why it's been so long since I made a Finecast model.
yeah, that's what it was like. I looked at it and I was like, when you just like you have your plastic glue next to you and you're like, I can't even use this stuff. So you put it down and you get the super glue out and you're just holding it. And you're like, oh, why? And you
Yeah,
got to I always give it a clean like it's Forge World as well before I stick it together, just in case. So because
So I have
if you try and sorry.
controversial take on this. While I prefer assembling metal models, I actually prefer painting Finecast. I think it actually paints better than metals, mostly because I don't have to worry about dropping the metal model and then it chips. See, with Finecast, it just shatters. So I know my investment.
You just know it's game over for the model. Then yeah, that's right. You just admit defeat. As soon as it slips out your hand, you're trying to emotionally deal with it from the minute it falls out. So, but yeah, I don't actually the newer Finecast in like inverted commas isn't too bad to paint because the detail's usually there. But I find the older stuff, like I tried to paint up some old Crusaders for my sister's army. And like this is about a year ago, and they're just horrible. There's like no detail on those things at all.
What I think is interesting is, there were two. It seemingly there were two runs of Finecast. There was old Finecast, which is what everyone remembers, and it was terrible. It was really bad. And then there was at some point a second run that no one really remembers, but it was fine. Like it wasn't great. It still wasn't a perfect material, but it wasn't as bad as the other one. Like the bubbling issue was fixed, the detail stuff was there. And so if you ever find one of those and you get them, you're like, oh, this can't be that bad. And then you have to remind yourself of, oh yeah, this used to be way worse. This used to be unplayable. I'm also a little as a particular host of a different podcast has thrown at me where I apparently bandwagon every faction coming out. I am a little jealous of Nids and their ability to be hobbied as literally anything. Like your paint scheme doesn't matter because you can just switch between everything and everything is every sub faction. So that's cool. That is definitely it's an exciting book to look at. It's got cool stuff in it.
Yeah, it's definitely got a few things going on in that book, hasn't it? You've had a good look for it, Sam, too. What do you think?
Oh, I can't wait. So, but spoiler alert for ATC. So obviously for teams events, like I know I need to prepare for my faction and like my faction alone and sort of understand other factions. But Tyranids are my favorite army of all time. Like I love them so much. It was the first time I collected basically as a kid, and I've had it all the way through. And I've had a good couple of read throughs and prepared 2 or 3 lists for it. And I can't wait to play it. So, funny enough, as we're recording this next weekend, there's a 1 day teams event, so it's like three rounds, like 4-man teams, and I'm the bug player, so I'm super happy. So I've written my draft list for it, and I can't wait to get my Carnifexes on the table for like the first time in 4 or 5 years. So I'll make sure I have my Screaming Killers ready, and then my Double Hive Tyrant just running around and causing all sorts of mischief. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Look, like I 100% agree. Like it does seem very, very good. And like, I don't want to be the person with a massive, says the Harlequin player. I don't want to be the person with the crazy S tier army that just dominates and just obliterates people. But look, you got to still enjoy your time in the sun, I guess.
Man's gone from Drukhari to Harlequins as getting hyped for bugs. No, I'm not the bandwagon S tier guy, guys.
I swear not. I swear.
Don't judge me. Don't judge me. All right. That's an important thing to note to listeners overseas is that we haven't been able to get any Tyranid models in Australia since Crusher became a thing. And in the new book, like obviously warriors and stuff are good. Like you haven't been able to get a Tyranid box of Tyranid warriors since I think like almost like mid-December, to be honest. So they are in serious short supply over here. You can't get anything. There's no needs anything. So obviously there's some people turning towards 3D printers and all that stuff. I don't have one of those or the room to put it. But I've actually quite lucky because I've got quite a big Tyranid collection as it is, and I'll just be sourcing from my collection. All my stuff's painted as Leviathan, because I'm an old school Blood Angels player. So that whole Blood Angels versus Leviathan thing speaks to me. So it had to be painted Leviathan. So and I'm just a really quite a slow hobbyer, so I can't see myself. I can't even get the models to start slowly on them at the moment. So, and obviously when I started collecting Tyranids, Carnifexes were terrible, so I don't have any of those. So that's just the way it is.
No, and I think that's interesting as we see. So we talked about in previous episodes for long-time listeners about supply issues affecting what is played in the game. We are now seeing a new codex almost every 3 weeks. Like Eldar just came out. Realistically, maybe it was about a month, right? Eldar's been out a month, and now Tyranids drops. Leaked codex aside, Tyranids have now dropped. So you're having this back to back. All these books are coming out quick. Now we know like Knights are right around the corner. So bugs are dropping and now there's Knights. So I think it's going to be interesting to see the overseas metas and how they adapt to that with already existing supply issues. And now, basically, if you didn't own it before, unless you were the first one to order it, you're not going to play them. You're not going to have the models 3D printing aside. So it'll be interesting to see, especially in Australia, which has a very large scene of what's your meta going to shake out as, right? Like, are you going to get the huge influx of bugs players that the United States is going to see? Or is it just going to be the same people who were playing them before?
Yeah, well, we're actually locally to me, we've actually got some very strong Tyranid players, which has caused me when I've been looking through the leaked book and when I get it today and stuff, and I actually do a lot better looking through a physical book rather than on a screen. I'm terrible at that. So when I get the actual book, I'm actually thinking about trying to build my list. Obviously, for like RTTs and smaller events and practice ones, I'll run like kind of what seems to be the stronger stuff, which is kind of Think City. Hey, you like that one? That was a good. It wasn't me who named that, but I liked that one. I thought it was good. So, but I'm going to be trying to probably create a counter to that a bit more so. And I do have some ideas involving Kronos and stuff like that. So I think I'm going to be exploring that avenue as my more long-term kind of idea, kind of concept, I think. So, but anyway, I could talk about NIDS all day, but we probably shouldn't. So Alex, assume you spoke to Suhan or one of the Korean boys. There was an RTT that happened over the weekend, wasn't there?
I did. It was about a week ago. Unfortunately, this is not up to my journalistic integrity of everything else I want to collect for the show for reporting on stuff. But I did get to talk with them about their RTT. It was very successful. I haven't gotten a ton of details. Again, like I mentioned before, I've been very busy for the last couple of weeks, and the time zone change. Basically, the optimal time to talk to the people in Korea is pretty much when I'm asleep. Uh, so I jump in and out of their chat every so often. Know this Korean players, I'm still watching what you're doing. It's just on a semi-regular basis as I'm preparing for the move. But I was informed that first place was taken by clowns. The Harlequin Metis has reached Korea, and it absolutely crushed their event. But it was an ITC event. It's very well attended. Again, YouTube viewers, you will see photos passing along on the screen. Variety armies in there. Saw a couple custodes, couple Death Guard, really well modeled Death Guard. A lot of conversions in there, and then a couple Harlequins, some Orcs, and some Blood Angels, and the Purple Necron army that shows up in every Korea picture, and I'm very happy to see it every time. But it was, as I understand it, maxed out at attendance based on local Korean COVID guidelines, and everyone had a good time. So there you go. Korean RTT was won by clowns. Please, GW, release the Balance Dataslate, fix the clown menace.
If you can't see the pictures, if you're listening, I have to say they're quite impressive. The tables are pretty impressive. Like they've got some good. It all looks very functional. All looks really good. That, like you said, Alex, there's some great paint jobs on there. So yeah, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, like Suhana mentioned, it's a mix of for those who are familiar with the some of it's WTC terrain. It's very clearly WTC terrain. There's a lot of Vanguard Tactics terrain in there too, and I have seen pictures that weren't played at this event, or at least pictured in this event, of GW terrain. They've done. There's a lot of GW sets there where people have taken the Orc terrain, the Orc kill team terrain, and built the plexiglass shield that goes under them to build that terrain set. So a lot of tall buildings. Everything is painted, and there's a variety of different paint schemes in there. There's the two custodes lists, interestingly enough, are not the same paint scheme. There's a traditional gold scheme, and then whoever painted this, an absolutely gorgeous Shadow Keepers in there, and I believe was played as Shadow Keepers too, with the really fine blue highlighting on the edges there. It looks real good. So I am very excited to go play in this meta. They have planning on running more events. Hopefully, I'll be able to get into them when I get there. Also got, as an aside, and we talked about the Korea thing, I can bring this up now. Found out I'll be living in Korea for 3 years. I got confirmation about a week ago that I'll be extended for a third year there. So I'll have plenty of time to get myself worked into that meta. Anyway, there you go, Korea RTT.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and obviously props to everyone there in attendance there. It's great to see more events, and looking forward to tracking you and the other 40k career attendance and events as we go forward.
AUS Masters, Sam, yeah?
Let's do it. Yeah, so just over, was it 2 weeks ago now? So just over 2 weeks ago, myself and a couple other people from all around Australia attended the Old Masters event. As we talked about, it's invitationals, 16 players were supposed to attend, and so they're all representatives from each state. And so it was my first time being able to meet a lot of these key marquee Australian players. So I've met Matt Morosoli once or twice really quickly beforehand, but to chat to him exclusively. So obviously Art of War coach, Eric Lathuris, obviously world-renowned Tyranid player and defensive player, and I know was an Art of War coach. Simon Gojkovic, be able to meet and chat to him again, and then a bunch of players. I could rattle off Jeremy Martino again. So it was really good. It was just good to meet everyone. And I'll talk about the event a little bit briefly, but for me, the event was just fantastic. And honestly, it was the best community I've ever met. Everyone was so lovely, and everyone hang out with together. Sometimes when you go to events, obviously you keep to your cliques. I know this person. I'll just go to lunch with them. We'll have our lunch together. They'll come back for 40k. Whereas the whole event, the whole time, everyone was just interacting with everybody. Everyone was invited everywhere. I got there the night before. I caught up with all the Queensland boys that came down, and we were able to go out for dinner and stuff like that. chatting like we were like staying in a motel. We were chatting to the early hours of the morning, like to 12:31 a.m., just talking about 40K in life. And it was just great. It was just great fun. And the day of the first round, we had lunch together. And then that night, everyone went out for drinks. And it was just a really good event. Like, it just, like, obviously train, armies, people were fantastic. But the whole community aspect for it was just the best I've ever experienced, fundamentally, full stop. So, yeah, for the event personally, so I played Harlequins, played the light list with 6 Void Weavers. I'm not a loser. I was running 9. Hint, I was running now 9 afterwards, but we'll let that aside. Anyways, I went 1 and 3, so it didn't go as well as I expected. I beat Space Wolves the first round, then I lost to Hayden Warlock. Sorry, we're not another really good player from Queensland, who was running Triple Storm Surge. Then I lost to Boyd, who was running a weird Chaos mixed list. That, funny enough, that was my first time playing Chaos, like, in the whole time I played 40K, just because I've never seen it in ninth. So lost to Boyd round 3, bit rough, but it's all right. It is what it is. And then round 4, I played against Liam. Sorry, I think it was Liam. Sorry, I forgot your name wrong, Liam, from Tasmania. So he was running Tower, so he made the trip up and lost a narrow one there. So that was good. It was a really good event. No regrets at all. And yeah, and also Ben Way, so he hosted the event. Maybe you can want to talk about it a bit more.
Well, I want to just, give everyone a visualization. So at the venue, we were playing in a room. There's only 16 people, so we managed to fit into the room where we usually do the RTTs in. And at the end, and the night came in, the boys had started hitting some of the cocktails, and I think at one point I remember looking over at the table, and there was basically 15 lads sitting on there, and there was at least 22 pink French martini glasses on there. Like so it was quite a visualization that you had to see to believe. I wish I'd got a photo because it would have been great for this, but yeah, it was quite funny. But like a lot of these guys were from Team Australia. And so Eric Lathoris, who's the captain of Team Australia this year, not only was it a good opportunity to come down and play some 40K, it was a really good opportunity for him and the Team Australia boys to have like what would almost be like a little bit of a meeting and a get together, because obviously Australia is a huge country. All the top players and who are in Team Australia are dotted all around the country, and it was a really good opportunity for them to get together and talk tactics, and just kind of figure out exactly who's playing what and what they intend. They were basically predicting data slates and stuff like that, and WTC FAQs. So that was really good. Obviously, for me, I hadn't met them all either. So, like Sam, it was really nice to meet a lot of them. But yeah, it was all in all a really good event. Kind of the usual characters in kind of the faction styles were there. Like a lot of Harlequins, a lot of Tau, just a lot of Eldar in general, really, as you'd expect at this stage. But yeah, it was a fantastic weekend, and I'm glad to hear you had a good time, Sam. Yeah, but like you said, Sam, 1 and 3, like you might not have been too happy with that, but let's face it, it wasn't an easy meta, really, was it?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And like you take that with a grain of salt as well. Like these are people who win their local RTTs all the time or win GTs, or always on the podium finish. So you're playing against the best. And for me, that was like the first time I played against very, very good players of that caliber. So obviously locally I've got Rowan and some other good players who we sort of duke it out. But playing against these, I guess, some internationally recognized players, it's good to get that experience. And it's one of the nice things. So something in football, you sort of realize. So when I play American football, you always wonder, like, okay, I play Division 2 football. What's the difference between Division 2 and Division 1? And I guess obviously as an Australian, what's the difference between me as an Australian versus an American who's played it forever? And you really quickly realize, like, obviously not to toot my own horn, they're not that much better than you, or there's not that much level of difference. Like you're not completely outclassed. It's not like they're just running rings around the table around you. So it was nice to just get that feel and I guess realize your own self-doubt. It's like, oh, okay, these players, they're good. They're very, very good players, and they do things very well. They have their, I guess, target priority locked in. They know their matchups very well. But they're not amazingly like leaps and bounds ahead that you're never going to beat them. So I think that was just also good for my own personal self-confidence, obviously, we like to talk about in the Best in Tabletop Network about your mental health and your own mental psychology. It's just nice to know. Okay, look, these players are good. Yes, they beat me fair and square, but it's not like it's insurmountable differences. So that was just really nice. And yeah, as Ben said, just catching up with a bunch of people. Obviously, COVID was rough on everybody, and it was just nice to finally meet a bunch of people from all around Australia. So yeah, and looking forward to next one. And I'll be thankfully fortunate enough to catch up with a lot of them at the ANZ Team Championships, or I guess Australian Team Championships now. But sadly, New Zealand can't come. But rip. Anyways, the Australian Team Champs. So looking forward to catching up with more of them then, and then drinking many more French martinis because they were delicious. So I don't know if you heard, Benny, but so there was a story, like all these like V-shaped wine glasses. They got to a point where we literally had all the wine glasses on the table, and they had to take them all away of us to wash them and let us order more of them. So I don't want to know what the credit card bills was for a couple of those boys, because I'm sure it was more than they were expecting or willing to take. So, but it was done in the right manner, and look, everybody walked to the appropriate venue or took a cab or Uber. There was no drink driving or anything like that. So everyone did it responsibly, and everyone looked out for each other, which is fantastic. So, and that's what you want from an event, and what you want from people, and that's how 40K should be played in the right manner.
With copious French martinis. Is that how it should
Exactly
be played?
right.
All
Hey,
right.
Look,
Taking notes over here.
Yeah, French martinis. That's, I mean, I don't know if that's a key to the superior performance or subpar performance. Looking back on it, Chris Wright was the only one that didn't drink French martinis. He won AUS Masters. Maybe that's why he won. But who knows? Anyways.
Well, a few of the lads. So when we ran the Down Under 40K GT, which was around when we did episode 1, I put on a themed cocktail for the event, which is dark and stormy, right? Which is like a rum and dry and bitters kind of concoction. And I called it a storm surge just to make it like 40K themed. Anyway, so you had like Josh. There's a couple of boys who were at Masters who were at the GT, and they were going up to the bar, dead set, ordering storm surges like they're actually on the menu. And because the staff had made literally 50 of them that weekend, if not like 80 of them, they were like, "Yeah, we remember that one." So Chris Wright was just on the storm surges again, which is hilarious. So, you know, with 40K themed cocktails, all right, there'll be another one for ATC. I guarantee you. I'll think up a new one. So, for sure.
So, for an American, American example, the Dallas Open, you could get a bucket of 8 beers, and it was the corn bucket or something like that, or is the theming your drinks at 40K events is that little extra spice that you can add that changes.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I couldn't believe how well received it was. People were just like, storm surge, I want that. And because usually, like, you know, Tau aren't the most liked faction, let's face it. But apparently, if you put a cocktail, you make the faction alcoholic. Gamers love it.
You found a way for people to enjoy getting wrecked by storm surges.
That's it, because that's literally exactly what happened. Oh my word! Well, look, I'll talk about Clash now. So I went to my first GT for a long time, and I had a little significant personal landmark about a week before it. So I was looking, well, not a week before, it was literally 2 days before it. So I was looking at this weekend for me to kind of let rip a little bit and have a good time. I hadn't played 40K for a while, had no practice. I'd been, like I said last time, I ran a bit of a meme list. I ran 29 aberrants in a bladed cog G-Steel occult list. For 2 reasons. One, because I knew if I set myself a meme list, I wouldn't take the event too seriously, and I'd enjoy myself, and I'd go for the more wholesome reasons. And 2, I had a little sneaking suspicion there might be something a bit more to it than just running 29 aberrants. Like, it might be half decent. Now, I'm going to a team tournament in 2 weeks, which is the precursor, the New South Wales precursor to the Australian Teams Championships. So, and I'm in one of those teams, just helping out the New South Wales boys. Because I'm not going to be playing in ATC, or the team. I'm just going to be running it, and I didn't want the stress of having to play in it, and run it. So I took this there. I played 5 rounds. It was fantastic. I had a great time. I could definitely tell that I hadn't wasn't very well practiced, and that comes up massively in game 5. But yeah, I'll give you a little quick rundown. I won't go into details. I'll just tell you the scores basically. But I played round 1 against Black Templars, and I managed to pull that one out 85 to 71, which is quite funny because Black Templars, he had all the Crusader blobs and stuff like that, but I also had aberrant blobs, and my blobs are better. And also had all these other stuff which can score all the objectives, all that, like it's just, basically my list was basically a Patriarch, a Magus, two squads of 10 aberrants, one squad of 9 aberrants. I had a pre-game move on one of them, +1 attack on one of them. 5 squads of acolytes, one 10-man with 4 drills with the 3d6 charge, a 5-man flaming unit with lying in wait for the 3-inch deep strike, a 9-man acolyte flamer unit which had perfect ambush on it, so I could put an exposed token on when I arrived, and 2 squads of bare bones just for some objectives and screening, stuff like that. I also ran an abominant because it wouldn't be a meme list without the worst character in the G Steel Occult book. The Big Daddy himself. He has been dropped. Just so you are now aware, he was dropped straight after the event. And yeah, 2 squads of bikes, 2 squads of 4 bikes, and 2 glass trucks, and that was literally it. Now, as you can tell, the secondary options in this list were pretty weak overall, and that definitely, when I started getting towards the end of that tournament, started becoming a thing. I then played Craftworld Eldar round 2. So I actually played every single Eldar faction mono, and so got myself the 3 of a kind. So I played Craftworlds first. I won that 84 to 69. Turns out Eldar, like all Banshees and that, they just bounce off those aberrants when they've got the 5+ Feel No Pain and the 5-up Invul. And a little bit of spicy tech is because I've got 8th edition aberrant models, I used the stop signs in them, which aren't very good in the new book, but they're actually really good into Eldar profiles because the attacks spill over, a bit like the Death Guard flail. And yeah, I was actually chewing through some Banshee squads and stuff doing that. So it was actually pretty good. That guy ended up 6th in the tournament, which was pretty good. So beat him relatively convincingly. I wasn't scoring very high because it's Gene Steel Occult, and my games are relatively close generally. So my third game, which is probably one of the best games of 9th edition I've ever played, like the most fun, one of the most competitive, one of the most tight but relaxed games as well. This guy ended up coming 2nd. I was his only loss, so I beat him 87 to 86. Some special shout outs to it was very much a board control. Blackheart had two Ravagers, 3 Raiders from memory. All the characters, all the courts, all that kind of stuff going on. Special shout out to 2 squads of aberrants who are one squad of aberrants and the acolytes who on one turn with a truck managed to wrap 2 Raiders on one of the turns. He had to emergency disembark one of them, which was the one with Draz and 5 racks, 5 incubi in. He only walked away with 4 models after that disembark when I destroyed that because I'd wrapped the whole Raider. And he used Desperate Breakout. And on the other one, he obviously couldn't do that, and he lost 8 out of 10 witches on that one. So I was pretty happy with that. It was a pretty big brain play from me, considering all the guns I had were 15-inch hand flamers. So that was good, and he was a great fellow. He's a fellow POM as well, so we were just talking football for most of the game, so that was good. So I was 3-0 day 1, feeling. Sorry, yeah, that's right. I was 3-0 day 1, which was pretty crazy with a meme list, especially as no one was expecting that. It was kind of fun, and I wasn't really taking it seriously. But I also knew the problem with that was I was going to be running into something pretty nasty the next day. And I ran into Josh McMillan, who was the favourite to win the event anyway, and he had 9 Void Weavers. I went 2nd, and we were playing Data Scry, so I don't really need to probably give you too much information about how that went, but I'm pretty sure I was his highest. I managed the most points out of him against him than anyone else in the tournament. So he won that 100 to 55. So I was pretty happy getting 55 out of that. And then the last game was against Richard Hill, who's another friend of mine. he actually ended up coming fourth with his Demon Engine list. Now he's played 50 plus reps in person and probably another 100 on top of that with TTS. Like he's well practiced. Everyone who knows him knows he's there. Alex, I know that you like your Death Guard. He was running Epidemus and he was summoning. He summoned Epidemus. He left 250 points spare, summoned Epidemus, and he was summoning in Furies to get himself R&D. It was really cool, super cool list. And we played, I think it was Secure Missing Artifacts. And I made, this is where like my ring rust really came into effect here. I chose really poorly on secondaries. I chose Bring It Down, which I should have taken Psychic Interrogation on. And basically that lost me the game, because if I had picked Mental, I pretty much would have won that game by 1 point. If things have gone a bit differently, it might have been a bit more, but that would have got me 4-1. Anyway, it ended up 88 to 75 his way. But that was a great game. I was his tightest game of the weekend, which was really good to hear. The aberrant list, it's really hard to pick secondaries. But for a meme list and for a guy who hasn't played 40k for 8 weeks or so, going there and playing some pretty meta lists with 29 aberrants, 3-2 wasn't too bad. But I had a great weekend seeing people I hadn't seen for a while and kind of using it as like my first weekend of pseudo freedom. So that was nice for me. But yeah, I actually have just been trying to refine this list ready for teams to promptly retire it the day after I finish that event. So yeah, but it's good fun, hey. And being the guy who runs 29 aberrants was a nice feeling. I'm not going to lie, And I know Colin mentioned it on his podcast because he saw the list and stuff like that. So that was really good. So yeah, I'm happy with all that. So.
I like that you're like, I'm just going to retire the resurgence of Muscle Beach, and you went 3-2. And let's qualify those 2 losses for a second. One of them is Demon Engines off of not being practiced. That's fine. That happens to everybody. Your other loss was against Clowns. Okay, understandable. So the meme list lost to Clowns. Okay, we've already beaten that to death. That's going to get addressed. And then off of not practicing it, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to get rid of it. Why? It worked.
Well, I think the problem is like the only reason I want to get rid of it is I've got going to have this shiny new Tyranid book coming in shortly. That's the only problem.
Fair.
But I remember when everyone was putting out those fake leaks, and it kind of got me excited because someone put the fake Balance Dataslates, the ones that they'd tuned, and they gave Aberrant's core in it. And then I went, obviously I knew it was fake, right? But I was like, oh, what if? What if? Because if they did have core, you'd be able to heroically intervene them around a Patriarch. Now that's when it starts getting spicy. So what I've done to change this list is I've put Locus in there to give myself some more primary objective control, because he basically bodyguards 1 unit and he has to pick it at the beginning of the game. So I have the Patriarch hanging out off the Locus behind the Aberrants to give myself some more primary control. And I've bulked one of those bikes up to a 6-man so I can zip off and get R&D in a quarter that they're going to, because they can pretty aggressively screen me in one of those quarters if they want, especially in the corner deployment kind of these diagonal deployment style ones. So I just thought that'd be a nice bit of tech to have in there. But it's worth noting as well that the Harlequin player that I lost to is actually a good friend of mine, and he actually came second at AUS Masters and won the event, that one. So getting 55 points against him, which I think was his definitely his. I scored the most points out of any of his opponents. It's pretty routine for him that event. The terrain was pretty bad, so if he went first, just move everything up and take away over half of your army turn 1, and that was it. So yeah, I feel pretty good. And it was good fun. I mean, whacking out like 29 aberrants was just good fun, right? So.
Oh, exactly. There's actually a point I want to make on what you talked about there, playing effectively a meme list, but we'll cover that in our listener questions. That's a preview.
Ooh,
It's also a really bad transition. We'll ignore that bit.
No, we can make this work, Alex. Meme lists. No, sorry. So you go, Sam.
I was going to say, so firstly, so Josh McMillan won the event. So firstly, congrats to him. Like for anyone who doesn't know, Josh McMillan's been going to like this every single GT event, every single weekend for the past, I don't know, year plus. Like the man's a madman. Like he's been going to so many, and he's just been grinding, and he's been doing so well. And so looks props to him. I think that's his first GT official win. So look, congrats to him. That's fantastic. Even if it's with Harlequins, like there is a player on the end of the line, and like he did very well, and he's a good dude. Like I've played him once now and talked to him a bunch of times. I've had no issues at all with him, and he's been a good dude. So congrats to him. And there's been a bit of like a variety of people at the event. So glad to hear you went well, Benny. I know I was talking to you beforehand. You're like, oh, I'll be happy if I go 1-4, maybe 2-3, but you went 3-2, so you should be more than happy and impressed. And yeah, looking forward to see how you evolve with GSC if you decide to come back to it after.
If I went 4-1, it would have felt like I'd won it, and I would have acted like I won it too. I would have been strutting around like, and it was close. Like even Richard afterwards was just like, that was the closest game I had this weekend, and I can't believe you took that as far as you did, like against me then. So I was like, well, if I'd picked, I was a bit like, like that ring rust of choosing bad secondaries, right? You'd feel it if you haven't played for a while, and especially if I'd played the list, I reckon 3 to 5 times before I went to that tournament, I think it would have been a 4-1. But like I think like the meme list, they're usually there to surprise people, right? So if you don't, if people might be a bit more ready for it if I bring it again. So So did we want to talk about our interview? We've got 2 of the lovely gentlemen from Victoria, which is the state that Melbourne exists in, and they run probably. Actually, not probably. It's 2 of the biggest events in the state. The names Lachlan Morrison and Michael Hamilton. Me and Sam interviewed them. My internet was terrible in this, gentlemen, so I'm very sorry about that. But yeah,
Enjoy.
we've brought these guys in today. They run a pretty well-known tournament kind of circuit kind of thing, not circuit, like two big events in Victoria in Australia. So that's down the bottom. And we brought them on just to kind of show you guys, and also find out for ourselves what it's like running events down there, and a bit about the local scene down there. How you going, Lachlan?
Yeah, doing pretty well.
How about you, Michael? All good. So Michael doesn't have a webcam there, so he's just represented by a photo,
I've got to hide my shame.
a talking photo.
I'm doing pretty well, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, great. Thanks. Great. Obviously, got Sam here as well.
Hey all.
So, boys, both of the events you're running down there are pretty big events now, and probably some of the biggest in Victoria, certainly I've heard of in recent years. Anyway, obviously, we've had a bit of a stunted couple of previous seasons due to COVID and whatnot. So, why don't you tell the little boys, the guys, about what you guys will get up to down there, and a little bit about yourselves. Why don't we start with you, Michael?
Yes, you are correct. We run 2 major events a year, which have accidentally become some of the biggest in Victoria. I don't think that's how we saw it going. But no, we're running now. Yes, 2. We run in September this year. We've got RatCon, which I would say is our flagship event and is what we started doing. And then now in April, so in 2 weeks, we're running Rataclysm, which is a more competitive event. And both of these are 80-player majors, which have sold out. I think the first one we ran was back in 2019, which started out at 50.
Yeah, wow, that's massive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely more than I thought we were going to get. I think our first one, we were like, oh, look, 2025, we'll be happy with that. But no, it's grown pretty exponentially and has gone well. Now we just need to find bigger venues.
So you guys are located like just outside of Melbourne, right? So you're not near the capital of Victoria. You're just like in a little town. Whereabouts even is Ballarat in reference to Melbourne?
So Ballarat is about an hour, about 100 k's northwest, I think, of Melbourne. So yeah, it's a good little hike outside of the CBD, but easy enough drive.
Yeah, sure.
It's like an hour's drive or so, right? Or like an hour and a half on public transport, roughly.
Yeah, just about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Michael, how long have you been playing for 40k for, mate?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot there. That's fine. I think I've been playing since probably the end of 4th edition, I think, is when I started playing. I was
Wow.
very young. My first army was Necrons. I think the new book had just come out when they went from the metal to the plastic. So whenever that was. But it's been a fair hike now.
Yeah, that's a long time. So have you always played pretty competitively? Like, kind of, um, how did you kind of get into it? Was it just one of the school friends kind of things? You saw hovering around, or you walk past the games workshop, that kind of cliche story.
No, I think it was from one of my school friends when I first started out. We played on their table tennis table in their garage with awful terrain. But no, I haven't always been what I'd call a competitive player. Obviously, when you're younger, I think would have been early teens is when we started. We're all terrible. No idea how to play. Just rolling dice and seeing what happens. Think this is pushing it. Either late fifth, I think fifth edition is probably when we went to our first tournament. I can't remember if we went to, there was a doubles event called Icon that used to run in Melbourne. We went to either that or a Geelong Heresy first, which is another 40K event that's in Geelong. It'll be one of those two. I wouldn't be able to tell you. And from there, I think we just started.
I think, Michael, I think you're forgetting what was the Ballarat tournament? Downfall that
Oh
you
yeah,
are still
sorry.
the champion of?
Downfall, which I'm the defending undefeated champion of because they ran one event which I won because of comp, like panel comp, which was look a thing of the past, thankfully. And somehow I managed to win that event, and they've never run another one. So that's a running joke we've got is undefeated defending champion.
It might be a joke, but it's true.
for, for all like for the past decade, you've been under.
Yeah, I think that was like 2012.
What about you, Lachlan? Tell us a little about how you got into 40K.
Yeah, my story is probably pretty similar. A few of my high school mates, when I moved to Ballarat, were playing 40K. So, yeah, jumped into it. Yeah, I was playing Tau, I think, were my first army. Long sold those. Don't have them anymore. Yeah, tournaments got into. Yeah, I think it was a doubles tournament that I went to first. And then I conned a bunch of guys into going to Downfall, and then went to a few Geelong Heresies, and yeah, been going to them pretty consistently ever since. Not doing well at any of them because I don't know, can't play the game, but is what it is.
So what are you playing these days in terms of armies, Lachlan? Like, is there a certain army you're sort of playing these days, or?
Yeah, these days I am playing. Well, most recently I've been playing my Dark Elder. But I haven't played a game since pretty much the new GT missions actually came out. Been off the tables for a bit. I'm working on a couple of armies, just furiously doing hobby. So I'm working on an Exodite Eldar army and a Skaven themed Gene Stealer cult. So I'm very keen to get those on the table, but there's so much painting in my future. Oh jeez.
That sounds amazing. I can't wait to see that army. That sounds great. I love that.
What about you, Michael? Any armies you've been playing around with lately?
I am currently trying to get on the Custodes bandwagon simply because I want a very low model count army. That sounds right in my wheelhouse. But up until then, for the last maybe 6 months, I've been playing Iron Hands Dread Spam just because it's kind of fun. Like, and it's not bad, but obviously it's not going to go out there and compete with the new meta of Void, Weaver Spam, and all that. But it's pretty reliable 3-2, 4-1 kind of territory, which is nice. And then I think before that I was playing Imperial Guard and Grey Knight indirect fire spam, which wasn't very nice to play against, but hey, it is what it is.
Don't have to worry about drawing line of sight when you just all indirect, right? You just it's over there. It's in range. It's good enough.
That's kind of like my one dream. Just eliminate indirect fire from the game. Just get rid of it. Oh god, it's such a pain. I was on the losing end of that list a lot.
Fuck the rules. I got to do what I want.
So you guys have obviously been playing events for a long time, and so obviously now you guys are TOing some events in terms of RatCon and now Rataclysm. So what got you guys into doing TO work? Have you guys been doing it for a long time? Like, was your first event in 2019? You just gone from there, or?
Oh, you just gluttons for punishment.
Yeah, pretty much. That was our first event in 2019. We'd kind of talked about it for a really long time. But yeah, I don't know. We just wanted to take a shot at it. We've been to enough tournaments to know what makes a good tournament, what makes a bad tournament. So just decided to throw our hat in a ring, see what happens.
Yeah, pretty much that. I think for a very long time it was at the end of each event, we're like, oh, we could totally do this. How hard can it be? And like playing chicken with that for probably 2, maybe 3 years. And then it just got to a point one day we were just sitting down, we're like, you know what? Let's actually do it. And yeah, I think our first one was in 2019, and then we've been going pretty steady ever since.
Yeah, so obviously you host your first event like end of 2019, I'm guessing, and then obviously COVID, the dreaded COVID happened. So obviously you're off and on during then. And for those who aren't aware, like Victoria and Australia were like, correct me if I'm wrong, it was like the most locked down state in basically all of Australia. And there was this random statistic that Melbourne was like the most locked down city in the world. So you guys obviously, I assume, didn't get the chance to play much or do anything. Do you want to explain some of that or what it was
Yeah,
like?
sure. Look, I obviously can't speak for the whole world, but it was up there. Like, definitely, I think the length of our lockdown, it was long. And I think Sydney as well had a pretty rough run. But for pretty much, because we ran our first event, yeah, in 2019, it was in April, so pretty early on, and we didn't do anything else until I think we were going to do 2020. But for pretty much the better part of 2 years, I think, especially Melbourne, because it got to a point where we're classified as regional Victoria, and Melbourne was obviously metro, and there were two different types of restrictions in place for a lot of the time. So we then had to cancel our 2020 event. We tried to run that in April again and try and be a bit consistent, which unfortunately got cancelled back. I think it was pushed back to November, and then that got fully cancelled for the whole year. But we then, I think the first event we ran after that was in the December of 2020. That's when we started running our one-day RTTs. And then, I think we got away again. There was a brief window in early 2021. We managed to run RatCon again for the second time. And then there was a few more spicy lockdowns, and now pretty much like the rest of the world, we're kind of going to COVID normal or whatever we're calling it now. And we've started running our regular RTTs again. And yeah, we've got our next big event to look forward to in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so how have you found the scene bouncing back from that? Obviously, I knew obviously when ninth edition dropped, it was like literally peak pandemic per se. And like I know Adam obviously has talked Adam Camilleri has talked openly about literally until he left to the States, he played maybe a handful of games of 40k ninth edition. Have you seen that sort of like learning curve still happening across Vic and especially obviously in Ballarat region?
Yeah, that is still kind of happening. Most of the tournament scene has been regional for the last couple of years. We've definitely seen most of the Melbourne-based tournaments. I don't want to say die off, but they obviously haven't been running. It's been us and a couple of guys down in Geelong running all the tournaments. But we have had a fair few new players come up in regional, so they're starting to learn the game, which is nice.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So even despite obviously the lack of being able to play, I assume people have been able to hobby or just get involved with the game. So have you seen like a lot of like growth in that sort of sense? Like how much percentage growth would you say you've seen? Because obviously I know ninth edition is a massive, I guess, change and evolution like, worldwide. Would you be able to like quantify how much you've
Oh,
seen?
I don't think, given I think we've only run one event that wasn't ninth ed, so I don't think we've really got that context there. And most of our events, at least our big ones, have been limited by the number of tickets we could physically sell. So I assume it's happening, and a lot of, as well, particularly coming out of lockdown, I know a lot of people were thirsty to get back to events. So we've definitely seen like an increase in just general interest as well as people want to get back on the tables.
Yeah, sure. Makes complete sense. And I guess I'd be amiss to say, obviously, you've got RatCon, Rataclysm, and then those like Rat RTTs, I guess they're called. So what's with the rats? Obviously, this is an Age of Sigma or Warhammer Fantasy. We're not playing Skaven. Well, maybe Lachlan is with his GSC themed Skaven, but what's the theme for rats? Like, how'd that all come about?
Well, it's right there in the name of the city, Ballarat, right there at the end. It's that simple. Plus
Yeah,
Why didn't I
it's
see
not
that?
really a deep and complex theme. None of that here. But the seventh ed Skaven army book from Warhammer Fantasy is probably the best piece of literature ever produced by mankind. So that too.
I don't think that's underselling at all. I think that's right on the money. But yeah, Ballarat is locally referred to as the Rat, so there's that. Also, just the amount of RNG tables in that Skaven book, chef kiss. We get a lot of inspiration from those random tables as well.
Yeah, well, why don't you talk about talking about random tables and some curveballs thrown in? Why don't you talk about Ratcon specifically? I think it is, isn't it, that you always put a custom secondary? And do you do anything for Rataclysm as well, or do you just keep that exclusively for Ratcon?
Yeah, that is a Ratcon thing. So this is the first year we've actually run Rataclysm, and that came about as obviously we've got our whole funky missions and all that stuff for Ratcon, but the competitive players wanted us to increase the size and potentially go to more than 5 games. And we kind of made the decision that instead of diluting what we had created, and that was what we kind of liked, was setting ourselves apart from every other event, to instead run 2 events. So we've got our one competitive one, which is your standard ITC out of the book missions, and then we've got our funky Ratcon. But I think Lachlan over here is the connoisseur of the jank, so I'll get him to explain his mission process.
Oh, the mission process. All right, so I go out into into the backyard of my house. I undo the 13 or so padlocks on my back shed. I open the crate in there and I dig out my holy and sacred copy of the Skaven 7th Ed Army book. And then I just, I don't know, flip through pages until I hit a random table. And then I'm like, all right, let's throw that in a 9th Ed mission. Let's just do it. Get it in there somehow. Link it to scoring somehow. And then I pass it off to Michael to make it remotely balanced.
Yeah, that's why I think we make a good team. He goes out there. I don't have the imagination for this, but then I try and channel what he's got into a not like fully balanced, because that's nearly impossible, but something that can get on the table and no one will be unhappy about.
If everyone's playing with the same level of insanity, just running around, then it's kind of balanced ish, maybe, sort of.
You make it work, right? So paint a picture. So obviously you talk about custom mission. So basically, please correct me if I'm wrong, for Ratcon, basically each mission of the I guess 5-round event or 6-round event is a custom mission. So instead of Data Sky Salvage, which was Vital Intelligence, or instead of Death and Zeal, it is Ratcon mission number 1. And then for each mission, there is like a custom secondary. Correct, is what I understand. And so obviously this is with the old GT pack where you could take the mission secondary, but now and as part of those conditions, you had to take that mission secondary. So, do you want to like elaborate like how some of those like custom missions were done, or like what was maybe?
Sure. You are correct. We did initially last time have it that we replaced the mission secondary with our own, and you were forced to take it. We haven't quite nailed down what we're going to do now that those don't exist. We're only in early drafts because that's a September problem. Let's not beat around the bush. We got to get the other one sorted first. But yes, so they replaced them, and for each of our 5 missions, we had a different mission. So I'll just have a quick look here. So last year, for example, our second mission was Warpstone Stockpiles, and we've had the standard primary, just hold 1, hold 2, all that good stuff, and then we'd taken a secondary, which in this instance we'd called Too Much Is Never Enough. And at the end of the game, your score points equal to the cumulative total of the Warpstone tokens on the objectives you control. So throughout the game, you would place these tokens on objectives and get points for that. But if you'd placed, I think it was 7 or too many tokens on a particular objective, it would melt down. And then naturally, there was a table which you had to then roll on. Which this is my favorite table because there is a table within this table depending on the result that you rolled, and certain things would happen. So here you go for this one. If you rolled a 6 and then got to roll on the sub table and rolled a 1, your unit grew a 3rd leg and got to add 1 to its movement characteristics as well as its advance and charge for the rest of the game.
The table within a table is truly my finest work. I don't think I will ever do anything better than that for the rest of my life. I've peaked.
Magnum
That's
opus.
it.
There's all downhill from there. Table within a table. Love it.
Is it Magnus Opus or whatever? Like
Yeah. Something like that.
Like the
Magnum opus.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, that's fantastic. What have been some, like, I guess obviously you talked about your inspiration sort of from the 7th Ed Skaven book and whatever creative masterpiece you come along the way. What are some of the challenges you sort of face in those custom missions? Is it like thinking of ways to balance things, or is it sometimes like on the day you don't think about a certain interaction, you go, oh, whoops?
Yeah, look, often there is some kind of weird interaction that comes up. I remember in one of the missions we had what was it? It was a field test for a Skaven warp lightning Gatling gun, right? And you got points for killing units with it. Sorry, that was my phone. And so one of the players called me up and said, "Oh, hey, I've got this problem. How does this work?" Explained the situation. He'd rolled a misfire for the gun, and it accidentally targeted a unit of his instead of the enemy, and wanted to know if he got victory points. And I had to think about it, and I'm like, well, it just says you're killing models, so yeah, grab your victory points, get them.
This is
Self
in the void.
sacrifice, right? To the 5th Chaos God.
Exactly, the most important Chaos God, the one that no one ever talks about, but that's okay.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. And do you find that most people are pretty receptive and open to the custom missions? Obviously, you always set the precedent that this is custom missions and this is a custom secondaries. But do you feel people on the day are like upset, or they're pretty happy and like go with the flow and like just play along for the ride?
I think since everyone kind of knows what's going on, they know they're going to be janky, they know it's going to be weird, and they know it's not going to be the most strictly balanced thing in the world. They just kind of go along with it and have a bit of fun with it. And the other thing we find is that it's different. People, like everyone's been to your standard, oh yeah, 5 rulebook missions, 8 rulebook missions, tournament. You know, everyone's done that, and they're nice, they're fun. There's just a bit of a change of pace. And I think people like that.
Yeah, definitely. Look, sometimes if you get screwed over by the mission or something that we've created, it can be a bit feels bad at the time. But we do put the missions out ahead, like usually 6 months ahead of the event, and everyone gets to see them. And then sometimes we get player feedback, and we will play test them and try and get them into a place where they're as good as possible. And obviously, they can't all be winners, but generally, and obviously we've only done this twice, so it's not exactly set in stone yet. But we'll try and take ideas or missions that are well received in general and like elaborate on them and improve them with further iteration, and then run them again. While others will get left out in the cold where they belong.
Fair enough. I mean, sometimes the mission you create is just god awful, and sometimes you strike on gold. Or warpstone. Maybe struck on warpstone. There we go.
Yeah, you're learning.
I
It's
know a
just
little
beautiful.
bit. Anyway, so obviously, along with obviously the custom missions and custom secondaries, I know you guys have like custom prizes along the way. And we'll try and chuck some images on screen. So obviously, we know for people who are attending Rataclysm, they're getting like a MDF 3D or MDF printed or MDF laser cut dice tray, which is like a nice little size. And then you also have a prize for my understanding for the wooden spoon is a little cheese board, which is beautifully engraved and nicely designed. So what came up with the origin of that?
Oh, well, yeah. Obviously, at most events as well, like the prize focus is on the people that do well, and that we've still got that. We've still got what we like to think are hefty vouchers and trophies for the first place, but also it's nice to have something for everyone. So yes, you're correct. Everyone's getting a dice tray from our sponsor. Let's plug here, Battle Kiwi from New Zealand. They're doing us a good solid, and they look exceptionally great. And we've also got a set of 6 MDF objective markers from Miniature Scenery. I think they're a Bendigo-based company. And it's just kind of making sure that everyone has a good time, spreading what our prize budget is around everyone. Just kind of that, and obviously cheese board. You've got your rats. I like the cheese. Not a big leap. And as well, because even with that, like last place is being done to death. It's here you go. Here's some new dice, and sometimes it's a gag thing. Like I think, or go back a few years, the joke was, here's some dice and some lubricant to put them in a place. But it's nice to, at least recognize, look, coming last can suck. Here's something that'll make it a bit better. I think last year we gave a brand new Indominus box as well to last place.
Yeah, fantastic. And I also know, I mean, could you provide some of the context? I know there's some WWE sort of wrestling belts, like with some sort of name award to it. Could you try and explain maybe like what that award is?
Oh, that's the belt is for winning RatCon. You get that for winning RatCon. I think for Rataclysm we have a different award for first. I believe it's one
Yes.
of those like championship cups.
It's a championship cup, but it's a very nice quality championship cup. It's unfortunately not as outrageous as I wanted it to be. That is something we try and do, is have outrageous things. And I wanted to get one of those really big ones you kind of see like at horse racing or silly esports events and stuff like that. This one, it's reasonable. It's a good proper quality, like silver plated, not plastic kind of thing. It was $400 which is probably a bit unreasonable for a trophy. And we're got to go back to the drawing board and try and find something else that we like. I think last week we were talking about what if we got it like a crown, like a little crown, and called them the Rat King. But that one, not so easy to find someone selling crowns out there.
There's not enough formals and proms that are selling old discarded tiaras and crowns. Sadly,
exactly. Well, they all look a bit ostentatious. They're very fake, clearly fake gemstones in them, and not just like metal work.
No, fair enough. Oh, so and there's like a name attached to the belt. Could you explain to it? Is like some who was the name of the belt?
The belt is like but it's equivalent of first place, but they are the Rat King, and that is what they are. They get the belt. They get to keep it. I think we've got 3 belts now out in the wild running around, and one day we hope that we'll get those couple of people to bring the belts back and walk around, and hopefully have to fight each other eventually. Because there can only be one.
Fantastic. That's what we want to hear. So, Benny, did you have any?
Sorry.
Lachlan?
Just rewinding a little bit, Michael, did you just say that you were surprised that all of the crowns were ostentatious? They're crowns.
Not in a nice way. Like, it was like, look, I've gone into, my hobby store and I've got, here's my fake diamonds, here's my fake rubies, and just kind of thrown them at an object covered in PVA. Like, not even tasteful.
Tasteful ostentatiousness. That's what we're going for here. Okay, all right,
Exactly
all right,
what
sure.
we're about.
Just so we're on the same page now. All right, good.
Only the finest for our rats, right? Only the finest. Oh, Benny, did you have any questions for Lachlan and Michael?
Yeah, I do. So, like, obviously, I can tell you guys go pretty deep into the finer details and stuff of your events and stuff, like as you've been explaining. Is there any like vast improvements or any main focuses you have at the moment, or like kind of ideas off in the future that you really want to kind of expand on or improve, like in what you're doing?
We have a lot of insane ideas. Most of them probably aren't
Oh,
ever going to
please
happen.
tell me.
Our tournament like strategy, if you want to call it that, it isn't really a strategy. It's just built off what's the biggest, craziest, dumbest thing we could possibly do. We don't really have the funding for most of them, so yeah, a lot of them get left on the cutting room floor until we become millionaires. Yeah. Oh, jeez. What, the
Tag
food
me
trucks
in.
we've talked about? Yeah, you have a go, Michael.
Oh yeah, we've got the food truck. Unfortunately, I'm the keeper of the coin, so I usually have to be the party pooper that goes, no, we can't, get the food trucks. We can't get the smoke machines. Got to kill all those ideas. But yeah, no, I think at the moment our biggest area of improvement is we're trying to get our terrain done. Like, we've got roughly 40 tables with battle mats. We bought the battle mats early. They were a killer. But that's what we're trying to do. We want to get our terrain finished because we gave it a go. We painted it. Turns out we suck at painting terrain. Like, we really suck at painting terrain. And it's important to acknowledge your weaknesses. So we've farmed that out. We're paying someone to paint our terrain for them, and they're doing an excellent job in comparison. So once that's done, I think we're getting pretty close, assuming they don't change the terrain rules on us, which you never know. Our next project is I don't know if you've seen FLG released a series of tables which are exactly 60 by 44 or whatever the game table is, and we were like, oh, that looks really good. Unfortunately, they're like $250 each, which is it's a bit much. So instead, naturally, we've spent $10,000 on commissioning our own to get built in Australia, in Melbourne, and we're getting 40 of those to try and improve the gaming experience for everyone that comes to our events. So those will be, I think they're about above waist height, kind of kitchen bench level, so you don't have to bend over because we're all getting old. Our backs are going. And they will be, I think it's 60.5 by 44.5 or whatever it is again. So they're slappy mat on, perfect size.
That's some real baller stuff. That is living the high life of playing 40k on that, because I had a table at home which was about that same height, maybe even a bit taller than that, and it's just so nice being able to like literally just stand and just reach over to the other side of the table, and you can just pluck it's really nice. It makes such a difference. I remember when you sent me a photo of them, Michael, I was like, you need to start selling those. Put me on the list. So
Yeah, I think the guys who are making them are actually going to start selling them once they're done with our orders. But yeah, they brought a couple of prototypes to our last event, and they are spectacular. Oh
Oh,
my gosh!
Well, I was hoping that they wouldn't be, so we didn't spend the money. But I saw them. I'm like, nah, it looks like we're committing.
Yeah, it's
classic.
too good to not.
We were going to be in the black for the first time this year because all we've done is spend our own money, and then unfortunately now we're going to continue to spend our own money.
I feel you, mate. I do exactly the same. So yeah, it's ongoing. You think you're looking good, then all of a sudden something catches your eye. You're like, oh, I want to do that at my event, and then you all of a sudden you're like back to trying. Well, where do we find this money? And you just buy more boards, buy more mats. I know how it feels. So it's good.
So you guys
Yeah.
obviously talked about obviously you being to tournaments before and you wanted to run your own tournaments and you're successfully running your own tournaments. What advice would you give to up and coming TOs or people who want to host events in the future about maybe things to do, things not to do? Do you go 10K in the red just to buy tables, or is there maybe other things you should do or should not do?
Don't go 10K in the red just to buy tables. That is a bad idea right out the gate.
Look, yeah, I definitely wouldn't take any financial advice from us. Other than that, definitely reach out to other people. Everyone I've met and talked to is very happy to provide advice, help, any of that kind of stuff. I think as well, be honest with yourself. Like, what do you want out of it? With on the money front as well. Like going in, we sat down. I think we said, look, each we're happy to put 5,000 of our own money in this, and we know we're never going to see this. Well, not never, but we're not going to see this again for a long time. So I think it's important to set expectations with yourself and just be aware of what you're getting into. But it's very much a different type of enjoyment I find to playing the game. That's where we got there. So when you, I don't know, suppose create something and get other people then come and that you see them enjoying it, I'm a big fan. It's very good.
The other thing I always found is, try not to take it that seriously. Yeah, like there are always going to be setbacks, there are always going to be problems. You just got to, just focus on actually completing the task. You never need to go down a rabbit hole worrying about everything. No, you just, I don't know,
You
get
mean
to
a
it,
no
get
hole,
the,
right?
get the job done. Yeah, a gnaw hole. Don't go down the gnaw holes. The gnaw holes are a dangerous thing.
There might be a table waiting for you to roll off on.
Might be a
But yeah,
really nice table that you just got to have 40 of. Ugh.
yeah, that's right. I know what you mean. Like I would very cautiously, and we would, obviously be aiming to expand and improve on this, but I never went, set this benchmark this high and thought, how the hell am I going to get there by the time the event rocks up? I was always quite cautious and, steady with our growth. So, but it sounds, the kind of vibe in the community, especially in New South Wales where I am, but I think also where Sam is that if you can hold a tournament, you are literally only limited by the amount of people that you can fit in the venue or the amount of tables and terrain you have, really, because you can seem to fill them up so quickly at the moment. People, I don't know if it's like, I think obviously there's a part of something to do with ninth edition, but also something to do with the release of, restrictions a little bit, and people are just banging to get out there. Have you found like there's a lot more? That's the same with your tournaments. I know you touched upon the fact that you barely feel limited, but how many people have you got coming to your events nowadays? Like RatCon and
Well,
Rataclysm.
our upcoming Rataclysm, we've got 80 people coming to that, and that sold
Yep.
out. We'd originally aimed to have that be a 160 player affair, but our our venue budget got really stretched on that one, so we moved to a smaller venue, downsized it a little bit, and yeah, we sold out at 80 players, which we're pretty stoked about. Our RTTs at the shed that I own usually caps out at about 20 people, which is pretty good. It's good for the
Yeah,
space.
I've got some
We also
figures on the RTTs actually. I did some math. Yeah, we've been running from December 2020, and we started. Yeah, we got the 1 day. So we run 7 so far. We're averaging 18 players, or it's like 17.8, but obviously I don't have 0.8 of a person.
Yeah, fantastic. And so so obviously RatCon being towards the latter end of the year, what's that expected to be like in terms of numbers? Because I want to say last year was it 100-ish, or was it very
No,
close to?
I think we were 80 players then.
Oh,
Unfortunately, like one of our issues that we've been having is locking down a consistent venue. So the venue we had in the first year was excellent, but it could only do 50, and so we did 50, and then we moved to another one to get higher up. But I don't know what it's like around where you guys are, but here there's only so many venues in the size kind of bracket that we want, but also in the price that we can really afford to pay and still run what we think are as a quality events. And also, unfortunately, quite a few of those, they're run by like community groups, so obviously volunteers, and it's not their job. So the communication has been poor, shall we say. And so we've moving to a new venue this year. So this will be the first event we've run at it. So we've only capped it at 80 because you can do, look at the floor plans, run the numbers, and until you actually get in there, set up the tables, it's very hard to know how many people we can actually fit in this venue. So we're probably being a little cautious, but if it pans out, we would like to stay here for a few years and build a relationship with them. And then maybe we can, I reckon, especially once we get our tables and they're the exact size that we need to play 40K on, and you can kind of fit a few more in, I reckon we could push 100 optimistically.
Yeah, fantastic. And obviously by doing, I guess, that more conservative approach, at least you keep the integrity of the event, because like the worst thing my understanding is the worst thing you can do is overexpand, and then you have like a worse service per se. Like you have light terrain, or just mats aren't good enough, or you just cramp the space. And so I think you guys are doing obviously the right thing in terms of limiting know your space, and then still offering and delivering an amazing event. So and obviously, like, even if I wasn't interviewing you guys right now, like I've only heard very, very good things about Rataclysm and Ratcon. So I'm very looking forward to hopefully attending Ratcon in September this year.
Hell yeah, come on down. It'd be good to have you.
I'll be there. Are you boys going
I've
to
heard that one
Terracon?
before.
Yeah, I know. I said I'd come this time, but I've actually got a lot of terrain to build myself, and I need that weekend because I'm doing it for ATC. So yeah, it's pretty
Yeah, I think
full
that's
on.
a bit more important.
Yeah, so I was just like, oh, as much as I want to, but that's the way it is. But are you gents both going to Terracon in South Australia?
Oh yeah, we'll be there.
Yeah, well, I'll see you there
yeah.
because I'm booked in for sure. So I'll see
We
you there.
weren't
I
allowed
went
to
there
go to the
last year. It
last
was
one because
amazing.
Oh, sorry. We weren't allowed to go to the last one because COVID restrictions. We got locked out of the border about 2 weeks beforehand.
Yeah, I remember that because I was booked to go to that, and then they changed my flight literally about.
Unlucky.
So it was a nightmare. Did I just disappear on the internet?
Yeah,
Yeah,
a little bit.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, so basically, my flight got changed literally about I think it was 15 to 16 hours before I flew out, and I only just made it. I had like 45 minutes transfer from Adelaide to get to the flight to Mount Gambier, and I thought, oh, I'll just risk it, and I had to run from gate to gate to get it because
Nice.
I couldn't. Melbourne was a real problem. I was meant to go via Tullamarine, but obviously they'd cancelled all flights in and out of Melbourne. So I just got sent on this wild goose chase. On the way back, my flight got cancelled back through, and I had to go up to Brisbane and stay the night, and then come back. It was a right mission last
That's
time.
a wild
So.
trip. I'm honestly,
It
the
was.
biggest takeaway for that is they do flights into Mount Gambier. I'm honestly shocked.
Mate, I come in hot Mount Gambier. Like, it's brilliant. It's like an hour
Would
and
have
5
been
minutes away. So good.
The only flight that even there. Yeah, no.
Bro, you turn up there, and it looks like it's literally only had probably a dozen planes land there in the history of the airport. It's crazy.
They fly to everywhere. You just got to find the small little regional airports, man. They go all around the bloody place. There are all these airports out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of Victoria, that are just like a landing strip in the middle of a field and like a shed. Wild. They will fly you anywhere.
Maybe we should invest in a light plane and get our pilot's license, and we can start Ratcon Air, and we'll go pick people up or something.
Now that is a crazy, stupid idea, and I love it.
Coming to an event near you in the next maybe 5 to 10, maybe.
Yeah, give
years.
it some time to pan out. But no, we will definitely be at Terracon. We've been denied 2 years running now, and I think we've still got our accommodation sorted from 3 years ago, and thankfully they've just let us move it forward a year each time. But thankfully for us, it's just a 3.5 to 4 hour drive, and we'll do that instead of flying.
Yeah, it's good. You just pile a bunch of boys in the car and off you go. It's good.
Yeah, what more could you want? So, unfortunately, it looks like we just lost Benny due to internet issues, but we'll finish on without him. So, obviously, you talked about, so you guys obviously traveling for events for Terracon. And obviously Ben, he's was planning to travel a fair way to come to Rataclysm. So have you got many people traveling interstate or potentially even internationally for Rataclysm? Or
I do know of at least one international person coming in for Radicalism. I don't know if we're spoiling
Coming
the
in
surprise
hot.
on that one. Yeah, coming on hot. Mr. Worldwide himself. Oof.
We'll wait till after list submission for that one, I think.
Yeah, okay. We gotta wait a week to spoil that one. But yeah, we've got a few interstate people coming. I know I've got a couple of people coming up from Queensland who were a little iffy on how to get from the airport to Ballarat, so I think Michael's going to pick them up the day beforehand.
Yeah, I'm chauffeuring. So if anyone is at the airport at 10 a.m., I've still got a seat left. They can catch a ride. We've got Adam Napier and the Uprising crew are coming over from Adelaide, which is always good to see. Then we've got New South Wales and probably ACT as well. I don't know. People in that area coming down. And yeah, it's great to see the support. We did initially also have, I think, 1 or 2 players from WA, but they unfortunately had to pull out due to the ATC getting put so close to the event. And they could only really pick one.
no, that's fantastic. At least you were able to get a bunch of people interstate and then one international guest. So we'll have to wait and see what that is.
Also, this is the only time I'm driving people from the airport. This is a one-time deal. I'm not doing that next year.
I thought we were about to start offering a service. Like we could have charged for this, Michael.
Yeah, maybe that was our mistake. I'm not charging. I'm just doing it out of the kindness of my heart when petrol prices have gone $1 million.
Doom wheel delivery, right?
There you go.
We're just gonna do Doomwheel decal, slap it on your car. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
What could possibly go wrong? So anyways, guys, so so just to finalize, any plugs or any sharing of your personal gaming clubs or anything you want to share?
Oh, there's not really any personal gaming clubs down here, I suppose, but just I'll shout out some other TOs while we're here. So Target Acquired down in Geelong runs some pretty quality events. You should check them out on Facebook. I don't think there's a group in Portland. I think it's like Southwest Coast Gaming. They also run some quality events out of a pub there, which that's good value. And then also, yeah, definitely our sponsors who are the best sponsors. We've got Miniature Scenery and Battle Kiwi, as well as Guff, Ballarat. They're good eggs. And if you want to find our events, I suppose you've got to find us on Facebook, which is just Ratcon space 40K. And you'll find our group there.
Yeah, and this Radicalism event sold out, correct?
It is sold out. However, whilst we've been on the air doing this, someone has messaged me saying they can't come. So we're now back to one spot. We got one.
Yeah,
We
well
want to
spot.
get in there.
Yeah, so this event, this interview should be coming out roughly Thursday, Friday. So list submission for the event will be this Saturday. So we'll have links in the description down below for RatCon 40K. So if you want to maybe get in the last minute sign up to Rataclysm 2022 or join up for RatCon 2022, feel free. Been always heard of a very, very good event. So be sure to sign up and enjoy. And that's us. Thanks, Lachlan and Michael, for your time. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was a good chat.
Can't believe I forgot to shout out our own events.
Yeah, right.
Thanks, Michael and Lachlan, for that interview. It was great chatting to them, and obviously, look, I've heard very, very good things. I've said it during the interview about RatCon Radicalism, and I can't wait to attend the September event with the unique missions and unique secondaries. It sounds like so much fun, and really looking forward to it. Michael and Lachlan did want to say there are still spots open, so unfortunately, COVID, people can't attend and travel restrictions. So if you are interested in at all attending the event, it's Anzac long weekend in Australia. So feel free to sign up. All the descriptions and links will be down below. And I just want to give another shout out to their sponsors for the train and event helping host it. So yeah, thanks to Michael and Lachlan for that, and looking forward to catching up with you again soon. As part of the Discord, when you join, you can ask us questions for the episodes. And so we have 3 listener questions to read off, all from the lovely fella in Tim. Funnily enough, I'm actually playing with him in the Teams event like a weekend from now. So looking forward to actually meeting him in real life and playing. So been good. So I'll lead off with the first question. So from Tim, what advice can you give a new player to the competitive scene who chooses to collect what is now a B tier army? I guess you can go off because obviously Death Guard are Not the
So
best.
say, oh look, it's me. It's the answer to this question. Okay, so picking a faction that ends up being B tier. Um, so I'll go on my little soapbox here for a second. I don't like tier lists. I think that you should rank armies on difficulty, but there's this obsession with creating lists of this is better than this is better than this. Okay, I've played I played Death Guard for 2 years. Yeah, I have my struggle matchups. AdMech was one of them, and that was a player thing. Book also, but it's a player difficulty as well. But that just means that your games are going to be more difficult. That does not mean that if a B tier hits an S tier, the S tier does not automatically win. The S tier player still has to play the game. And everyone's like, well, obviously that means that they're going to win anyway because there's such a power differential. Cool. But if the S tier guy just picked it up and the B tier guy has practiced it a lot, the B tier guy can do fine. The example I'll give here is Dark Eldar. I played Death Guard into Dark Eldar a lot. I practiced that matchup. I thought about that matchup every time I built a list. Every time I went into a GT, my first thought was, and this was during the Dark Eldar, like the height and then slight, I wouldn't call it downfall, like a plateau of Dark Eldar. Those games stopped being hard for me because I practiced. So if you're going into what is now a B tier faction, you got to practice. You got to practice a lot, and you got to think about what your matchups are going to be. You can't autopilot going in. You have to go in with a game plan, and that's really where it is. If you're in a weaker faction right now, that means you're going to have to practice more. You're going to have to study the game more. So you need to take that into account when you take stuff to events. But also, this is a game. At the end of the day, this is a miniatures game. Pick the army you want to play. I absolutely loved playing poxwalkers and artillery, and that was a lot of fun for me. And I just enjoyed that outside of it. So that I know we have other questions that are going to talk about enjoyment, and I'll hit that there. But if you're picking up a B tier army, and especially if you're new to the competitive scene, understand that your first events are going to be rough. You're going to take L's. You're going to take more L's than you take wins, and that's fine. It's about learning the faction and getting that practice in, where you can then walk into an event and do well. And you know that I know Fight Club has talked about this as well, where it's like have realistic expectations. I knew when I was playing Death Guard, I was not winning a GT. Wasn't going to happen. That was off of player practice and just where the faction was at the time. But I went in and did my best, and that's the best advice I can give is you are playing this game because it is a game and you enjoy it, not because for the vast majority of people, because you're making a living off of it. So go in and have fun, enjoy what you're doing, and pick a faction that you actually like. Don't pick something because it's strong, right? I have no interest in playing Harlequins. That's not the kind of army I want to enjoy. So I'm not going to run out and buy a Harlequin army. I have some FOMO purchase unfortunateness. There's some Tau sitting in a corner there that I've had for a while. But I don't play those because that's not what I'm going to enjoy playing. So pick an army you're going to have fun with, that you're going to like hobbying up, and roll with that, and just get games in, get practice. And I have talked entirely too long, so I will mute myself and let other people answer the question. This is not the Alex question hour.
Does that mean I can't answer next, or is that allowed?
No, we answer for each other. It's
Okay.
adult consciousness. You're banned from answering.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna just ignore the ban anyway. And yeah. So if you've got a faction that's nominally B tier, I guess have a look around to see if there's lists within it that you like or that are above average. Maybe it's I don't know if they're actually B tier, but when I was doing well with knights, it was often, at least in the Discord, they were jokingly called, not a good faction. And as a whole, they definitely had struggles, but there was there were 2 data sheets that were pretty strong, and just leaning to just that. So maybe there's something within your faction that isn't as played. If you can find your way to get that and just grind reps, if you find a list that mostly works and practice, like Alex was saying, you can get really familiar. Yeah. Did Sam or Ben have anything to add to this? Or are you guys like too keen on bandwagoning or actually running the events?
I hate you, Tauty, sometimes. No,
Only sometimes. I'll work harder.
Yeah. So, yeah, like so what you both Tausi and Alex have said is very true, and I agree wholeheartedly. I think just to add on to that, I think your time will come. Like, don't feel too discouraged. Like when it's not as good, like your time will come. Like, so John Lennon talked about that. This is the first really good Tyranid book in however long. Obviously, Crusher and Leviathan supplement aside, this is going to be like a first wholehearted Tyranid codex, which is going to be relatively good and strong out of the gate, and is well balanced and internally balanced. So, your time will come, and I think if you collect the faction that you love the looks of, and you enjoy painting and playing, you'll get better at it, and you'll in more reps and more practice, the better you will be. I also like to quote, sadly I couldn't find the right episode, but obviously adjacent to Age of Sigma, they do a show called Warhammer Weekly with Vince Venturella, and they talked about they have like a stats center element, and they talked about how win percentages happen with people who are well practiced with the book against higher tier factions versus lower tier factions versus same factions, and the stats show that the majority of players who are a better overall player, even with a weaker faction, will win with like I think it was 75% of the games against a stronger faction because they're stronger with their book and they know everything in and out. So it's quite important to note that despite it might be a beer tier in the whole grand scheme of things, you can still do very well with a lower faction. I know there's been many faction loyalty people. So obviously, Jaime Paris with Space Wars last year was very strong. Went for Charing Hammer and did very, very well with it. And then there's a bunch of people who are just faction loyal to this and like play it throughout, even despite maybe they're not as good. I think there's still merit to be made, and so I think just enjoy yourself, just learn and practice and like go in there with those expectations. Hey, I may not do as well, but that's okay. Just set your bar, set your expectations where they are, and then go from there. So
Just quickly to add on the your time will come thing as well, because the Tyranids is like, yeah, you got a new book finally, but also like Necrons came out with not a great book, right? But GW they're working towards things. They are like iterating and improving stuff, not as fast as probably anyone would like. But like it's they're getting there, right? Like, yeah, give it the old college try or something. Did you have something to add, Ben?
No, I think you guys covered it. You nailed it. I agree with all of that. Just have fun. Most important thing is fun. If you pick up a faction you don't necessarily like, but it's strong, you might not have as much fun. I think you've got to actually love the models, love the faction. It depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for, if winning is that important to you, then yeah, you might need to change faction. But I think for the majority of people, it's just playing with the stuff they've created and they love, So just make sure you have fun. If it becomes not as fun, maybe just take a break from that next event, or try to go to a doubles one or go to something like that. Whereas there's plenty of ways to enjoy this hobby that doesn't involve getting crushed by the S tiers, So
that seems like a great transition to the next question. If I'm not
I
cutting
actually
off.
wanted to add something here real quick. And this is something that we cover a lot on the show, and that I want to point out that all of our answers had talked about players. I think it's important to understand that there are people who it is more important that they jump around to strong factions. That does not inherently make them bad people. Like just because you're faction switching, right? Like I think you need to understand the amount of salt I have gotten in local communities from switching from Death Guard to Custodes. And I've had to remind people I played Death Guard for 2 years. I literally did my time in the trenches, and when I saw something that I thought I would enjoy more, which I like low model count heavy infantry armies. That's a lot of fun for me. Not Marines though. Haven't figured that one out. I found something that I also enjoy, and I switched to that. And my enjoyment of the game is important. I am enjoying what I am doing. But I am still a person, the same as Sam is still a person. As much as we're joking about him falling into 3S tier armies back to back to back, like that's fine. We can make those jokes, but that doesn't make Sam any worse of a person for doing that. That's because he plays Dark Eldar. That's a different thing.
Yeah, he's just a bad person off the bat. It's fine.
He's an issue he's a problem for other reasons. But attacking people for jumping around factions on that because they went from a B tier to an S tier. Don't stop that. If you do that,
Yeah.
stop. That's not healthy for the game. That's not healthy for the community, and it doesn't buy you any goodwill for doing that. And again, I have talked too much.
I'm a believer of you should live your best hobby life, right? It's a game. You play whatever you want to play, whenever you want to play it. No shame. Just do what you like. Like, it's your hobby, right? It's your yeah. If you want to play that, if you like jumping on that and doing that, just do it. Like, if you don't like, if you want to play, keep playing Sisters and stuff like that, do it. You know what I mean? Like, I just like, yeah, I've never got the whole people judging people for doing what they want in the hobby. Like, I've never understood that. It's never washed with me at all. So, well, what's the next question, Sam?
Yeah, so the next question is, so we sort of touched on it a little bit there. How do they, or everyone for that matter, stay positive in this very divided meta? I guess I'll hand it over to Tausi. How do you stay positive or upbeat?
Oh, the cheap answer: just have your book get good. No, but is this the one that you're talking about with the meme lists? Let's assume that is, because that can be a good way to have fun as well, right? Like, so I had a collection of Custodies, and then the book came out and was like hella busted, and so I took that to the Teams event a wee while back, and have been playing it since, and it's been going really, really well. To the extent that sometimes it's like, okay, I don't really want to just like play a cookie cutter golden stuff Custodies list and go win things. So I started making like slightly wonkier, silly lists to have fun with. Like the past couple games I've had, one in person, one on TTS, was with it was a Patrol Vanguard of Custodies because I wanted to use 8 elite slots. I wanted all 3 of each Contemptor, and 2 flags to give them -1 to hit and a 1+ save, and just run that wrecking ball around places. It was fun. The like, and I knew making it like the first iteration of it, I had a Telemon in there as well because I was like, it fits the funny joke. It's not good. I don't have like random trash units to put places. I want to deathball the army, and then like I get sad when there's one idiot sitting on an objective. But it's if you have something silly and things don't go as well, then you can feel alright about it. Hopefully, if you got the right attitude, right? Like the second game I was playing into, the guy had an avatar and like a bunch of guns, and there was nowhere to move, like to run at them with my dreadnoughts. That wasn't like a crater, which was sadness. But I did it anyway, and it was a good laugh. It's like, all right, let's keep throwing dreadnoughts at the avatar and see how many it takes. More than 6. The avatar was killing so many dreadnoughts, but it was cool. Yeah. Have I talked too long now? Who's up next?
So you can just take a meme list. That is one way to do it. I think it's a good opportunity to try, like in talking about meme lists, let's take the word meme off it, right? That was something that I'd looked at in the book and thought to myself, that could almost be something, or one of those things that go, one day I want to try this. When you look at a book and you go, oh, one day I want to try this just for a laugh, right? That could be the time you do it. Now could be that time you do it, because by running the list I did on the weekend, changed my perception and my expectations of how I felt when I walked into that event. I walked in there to have fun, so I took a fun list, right? But by taking that list and almost basically admitting a bit of a handicap with it, I went in with lowered expectations and heightened appreciation of just being there, I guess, and just enjoying myself. And um, that was fun, and maybe just enjoying the person across from me a bit more rather than enjoying just wrecking someone on the tabletop. I had more time to appreciate the person, and I was really lucky, for example, to have amazing opponents all 5 rounds. So I had a great time, and just appreciating maybe the stuff that, when your book's really good, or when you're taking toy soldiers quite seriously, which we all do, you kind of tend to you kind of tend to remember the other facets of why you go to a tournament or play 40k in general, which is like the social aspect. There were some amazing looking armies, and I managed to have more time to appreciate those. It was just, yeah, I think that, like, the hobby's so vast and wide that you can pick something else from it to enjoy to get you through. I don't know, that's not necessarily going to work for everyone. I understand that, but there is avenues to explore to make that more enjoyable for yourself. And I think you've just got to be willing to explore them, really, and and just be willing to take it down a notch in intensity, or take that list that you always thought would be a cool idea but never actually taken it because you've always been trying to ride that wave a bit better, and just take it and just try it for a time. Catch some people out of it. Always makes you feel good when you're beating, if you win a game with like a list that you probably shouldn't win it with. Always makes you feel good.
Just going back a wee bit, like that's how Anthony found Thick City for himself, right? He was running, haha, let's run like all the big idiots at this ITT so that he's not like rolling people with his like good stuff, like all the locals, and got like 2 games in or something, and was like, oh no, this list's also good. Um, yeah,
Hey, you want to know the difference between a skew list and a meme list? It's if it wins. If you lose with it, it's a meme list. If it wins, it's a skew list. Like, it's the same thing. So, oh, you have to go play in events. Like, Ben, you ran a skew list. You just called it a meme list, but then you won games. It's 29 aberrants. Like,
Yeah,
that's gonna
yeah.
break something.
It was hilarious pushing those big muscly boys around the table. I'm not going to lie to you. So it was really, really fun. And they're way too. I wouldn't say they're too durable, but they just take more than people think they're going to. There's so many little layers that they can make someone's life a bit of a misery. So it's pretty good.
Yeah,
Any more questions?
yeah, -1 damage, 5 invuln, 5 Finland
Oh,
pain is just great.
yeah, and then -1 damage, and then they're also like toughness 5, which is actually like more of a thing than people think it is, because it can be really painful, and you can make them so they can't be shot at and stuff like that in the middle of the table, which was hilarious because it's 2 CP, but it's worth doing just to save them. Like the Craft World indirect, I stopped them from killing my back line stuff off my back objective with that 2 turns in a row, so that was great.
Yeah. So we have one last question from Tim, and then I'll wrap up the show. So imagine a scenario where the next few codices continue to be significantly more powerful than the pre-Custodes meta. What would you do if you're a TO and try and tempt non-S tier army players back to your events, assuming the situation is causing a decline in participation? I guess I'll start things off a little bit. So I think you got to get set in with the expectations of the event, right? So I guess locally, obviously, we've run a bunch of RTTs, and they're a bit more. I guess this expectation is that these are for new players, just to come in, have fun, try some events, and have fun. But the goal of the event isn't that you win a grim games, a grim series. Like, just have fun, enjoy yourself, and go from there. And I think you can tempt players by just honestly being open about how the list or the event is going to be run. So look, this isn't supposed to be the most competitive event ever. These events, by the way, like non-ITC, they've just got like a local little rankings thing, and there's like little, I guess, prizes and awards for people who aren't running like the meta army. So like, there's a top Imperium player, a top Xenos, a top Chaos, a top this, and we're tracking all that. And then throughout the event, we actually give away prizes which are not correlated with best general. So there's a best hobby, a best painted award. There's like a wooden spoon award as well, and there's also like lucky door prizes. So we try and encourage people to attend, and obviously most notably, there's a Better Human, Better 40k award. So obviously, stolen from Colin. For the best person on the day, like someone who throughout the community has been always a good player, plays it the right way, and I don't know, just has fun. Like it's not maybe someone who wins the event or comes close, but just I guess you encourage people to not worry about taking the event and smashing everyone with S tier. But I know as a TO, you can only do so much, right? Like I think I host the event, I give it as accessible as possible. I'm there for if needs be. I'm not of the situation or I guess right mindset to start trying to do some custom comp sort of thing anytime soon. But I think if you just allow the event to be as open as possible and let people know the expectations, then you can go for there. And I guess this is just from player to player per se. I guess Yeah, Alex, do you have anything to say about that? If you were to run a TO event,
I'll go first on this one. Answer partially for the Alex consciousness. So I think if you're you made a good point. If you're a TO, you need to be realistic with where the game is at, and you need to understand that you're not going to fix the meta. Um, I community comp is not the way. That's that just creates a little micro meta, right? Like, okay, cool. Um, you've created this little echo chamber where everyone's going to play to a new comp and then go out and play something else. And maybe that's what your local community wants. And if that's what your local community wants for you to run events, go for it. I'm not a fan. I think it hurts the spread of the game when everyone starts playing basically their own versions of it. I don't think you should try and tempt people back. I think you should just be honest with the event. Door prizes are a great way to get people to show up to things. If I show up to an event and I know I'm going to go, I'm showing up to Dallas and going 0-8, but I get 20 dice, so that's really cool. Those kind of things are really nice. But just, understanding that, you know what, you set up the terrain the best you can. You set up the mission packs the best you can. You do everything that the TO that you as the TO can control, and you let it play out, and you do the best thing you can to have a good environment for everyone to play in. You actively judge games, and that's pretty much all you can do. I don't think, if the game is in a bad state, people aren't going to show to play, and unfortunately there's very little you can do to do that. But times have been bad in the game. They are not nearly as bad as they used to be. The game has been in a much darker place, and events were still run. There were still huge tournaments going on. So even if it's looking a little dark, just keep calm, carry on. We'll get through this, and the meta will be fine at the end of it.
it's something also I
Yeah.
just wanted to add. Also, is events kind of sort of self compete players, and throughout an event, depending on how you're doing, you sort of like, I guess, align yourself with players of your expectations or armies. So, for example, say you go 0-2, you're also matching up against someone who is 0-2. And 99% of the time, they're not playing an S tier army. They might be a newer player. They're playing someone who's like, D tier or lesser army, but someone along those similar lines, mindsets or play styles. So, you're not always going to be playing against your high, like pre-nerf Drukhari or pre-nerf Custodes, pre-nerf this. It's not always going to be like that. There's going to be players of all skill gaps, all army types playing, and you'll align yourself relatively quickly and be within those brackets or formations. So, it's highly unlikely that you'll just get crushed. So, obviously, we don't want all the codices to be the next best thing, but if that was to happen, I guess that would be some advice. So, yeah.
So I think you bring up a good point too, and I'll piggyback off your piggyback. Having It's all goes back to expectations, and really setting good expectations for your player. Again, I don't TO events. I'm not good at that kind of thing, so I don't try. But as a player, I know whenever I play in big events, where I know I'm playing something suboptimal, if I take an L, I take a loss round one, I have a little speech that I give my opponents round two, which is, congratulations, neither one of us is winning this event. Let's have a good time. Let's have a good time here and play by intent, and just have a blast. And I have 85% of the time never had an issue with anyone doing that. 15% sometimes you get some people who are upset, but I think having those expectations, and as a TO laying those expectations out to the player that, okay, the focus here is to have a good time, not to win. No one makes enough money off a 40K tournament winning alone to make a living. So let's not pretend that we're using this to pay for rent.
Are those 15% of people Scottish? Because I hear like losing games doesn't preclude you from winning events over there. um, I actually do have a relevant point to the discussion though, which is a bit like the whole door prize idea or spot prizes. We've got the same TO that's running the funny 666 point event. Has a couple other, I guess, wonky events, let's call it, or like theme. Yeah, themed. Theme's a better way to do it. Where there'll be like random things like I can't remember what the exact name was, but something about like the Snake Eye God or something, where if you CP reroll a 1 into a 1, you, depending on either like some of the ones he's got a custom mission set. So it's like if you do that, you get like actual in-game. It's a secondary if you CP reroll a 1 into a 1, or like just having a tally like that, and then whoever did that the most over the event won a prize. And I think it was a new set of dice because like that's fitting. But yeah, just like if you're a TO and you've got a bit of extra something, you could like if you have some things like this where like even if you're getting wrecked, right? Like if there's some you can bake in like tertiaries or something that don't contribute to in-game but have like some contribute to like a comedy total that then you can play towards. I don't know if this is a common thing elsewhere, but it is local to me where um different times, either at the end of a tournament, if there's like a couple extra prizes to give out, the TO will be like, "Hey, does anyone have any funny stories at their opponent?" And you just sort of shout out like, "Hey, my opponent had this like really unfortunate thing happen," and you try and like win one of your opponents a prize for something unlucky that happened to them. There's like round prizes for like first person to have a vehicle explode and kill a warlord or a character or something like that. Just stuff like that, so that there's like funny moments that you can look for, because then you pay more attention to stuff like that. Because that can happen even if you're playing well. Like if you're on a top table and like something happens to explode, it can be something to work towards. Or if you're like if you're having a rough day, right? Like maybe you're getting wrecked by clowns, and you're like, yeah, all right, I'm gonna just like run my characters next to your boats and try kill them, and they're like, one of them explode, give me bonus prize. Fun things.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. I've heard people do that sort of bingo card idea, like where you do if you tick a couple of things off the bingo card, then you win a prize. So, Benny, you have anything else to say?
How would I see if all the books came out like pre-custo? Wow. Well, I definitely wouldn't comp it, like the lad said. I try not to interfere in the game of 40k at all as a TO. For two reasons. I'd probably muck it up. And the second reason being, it's not really my fault. And I will keep my arm length away from that for as long as I possibly can as a TO. What I tend to do is we're lucky we've got a super strong community around here. So I will rely on the community focus of the event and be like, because we run on average like 1 to 2 RTTs a month. So I would be like, come and hang out, because it's a bit like AUS Masters. Every time there's an RTT, we book one table, so all the tournaments sit down together. So I would just base it on like coming and catching up with the community and stuff like that. And like one of the guys said, I'm pretty sure it was you, Sam. Not every single person plays Harlequins at a 16-man event or a 20-man event, right? So you're not always going to play Harlequins. I don't. I'll commiserate with the players being like, "Oh yeah, you got crushed by Harlequins. Yeah, it's rough, isn't it? Blah blah blah, stuff like that." But I never at any point would ever try and persuade someone from taking the army they wanted to take. I just make it more community focused, focusing on the social aspect. We quite often do like things like best dressed as one of the prizes. We like to try and spread our prize support throughout all the players, not just like the top 2 to 5%, right? Anyway, bingo is a good thing that works really well, that gets everyone takes the narrative away from like the top tier things. We did that at the big GT. We have done it at RTTs as well, but that's always really popular. I'm pretty sure we gave away at the GT, I think it was 14 sets of dice for that, because we let every row on the bingo card be a bingo, and people were loving that. So it was really nice. Yeah, we just I try and make it, try and take there's an RTT. If the Met is in a really, really, really bad spot, I tend, I'll do a shout out to the winner, but I won't, it won't be kind of thing that I'll really highlight too much. I'll just be like, thanks for a great RTT and thanks for coming, everyone, but and kind of promote it like that. I think it's hard to say, and I really hope that doesn't happen. But I think like at least there's hope, right, with these data slates, and hopefully they can get them right. I always try not to. I always try to make sure that it's not the TOs. It's not my fault that the game's like that. And I'm not aggressive with it, but I'm never like, I'm like, oh yeah, it's rough, isn't it, at the moment, and stuff like that. I try and like commiserate with them and talk, like, because I'm a player too, right? I'm not just like some guy who sits there and runs events and controls the game. Like, I play too, so I can relate to them, so I just relate to them in that sense, and I think I don't really have like a perfect answer, because we're looking into a void that hopefully just doesn't happen, right? So yeah.
City players, that's rough, buddy. Have you tried 30 aberrants?
Yeah. Well, I should say, well, you know what you need, my friend.
Yeah.
Anyway, coaches are coming soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, that's it for everyone. Firstly, thanks to everyone for the questions from Tim. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the YouTube link down below, or post them in the Discord. And yeah, looking forward to joining you all next week. So yeah,
I think before we go, we'll pitch the network one more time. Maybe we want to throw the Patreon link up there. So if you're listening to us on YouTube, YouTube membership gets you the bit reps. The part 2 is a lot of those. Part 2 of Chasing the Narrative, the unscripted Fight Club After Dark, which I've enjoyed immensely, and Patreon, $10 a month gets you into the best Discord in 40K. That is a definitive statement. I will not be taking questions afterwards. So
thanks everyone. Have a good one. Take care. Enjoy your Easter weekend, or break if you guys are celebrating it, and see you next time.
Thanks so much.